This is episode 2 of the demonstrations. You log in again with your credentials, and on your account there's already one herd which was created as a template. I demonstrated that in episode 1. Now we're going to create our own herd from scratch, not the template, but our own herd. We click here. We have to enter the name of the herd number, where are we from? Let's say we're just from Europe without specifying what country. Euros is the currency. We have a conventional herd, not organic. We have a herd with Holstein cows, not Jersey, and all the animals are at the same location, and we click on next. Where do we get the data from? Well, if you got this demo, you're outside Denmark or the Netherlands, so you cannot import the data, so you have to enter this manually. Number of cows, basic information, milk yield in kilo energy corrected milk, can also be liters, not a big deal at this point. What kind of data do I want to enter? I want to enter all the key figures, and then I get a long list of other information I could enter, like how much milk is delivered, what's the somatic cell count, number of calvings is already filled out. It's basically a function of number of cow years. That means the default value is already filled out. How much stillbirth is there, mortality rate, etc. You don't have to enter anything. You can skip to next. If doing so, all the values corresponding to medium are used, which corresponds to the average value of a Danish herd. I don't know your specific country, so we haven't created this for all countries. If you don't fill in anything, you get the value 4, but you could also enter your own values, of course. 97, 220, or you can click on the values. If you don't know them, but you want to say you have high cow mortality, you can click on the values. You get a very small attention. The cells are yellow in case your value for dystocia milk fever is higher than the high value, meaning it's kind of extreme. Just a subtle attention. We can scroll down and enter the other numbers, but I think you get the point. This is where you enter your data. You click on next. You could check the prices. We didn't do that. You click on next. You could already now create an animal health report, which is a PDF that summarizes many different scenarios. We don't do that now, but we have to create a prognosis, which is simply a simulation that looks into the future. How will the herd look like into the future? Because what we just entered was simply the past, the history. We run a prognosis to look into the future and see how does this herd look like in terms of culling rates, in terms of heifers that can be sold. So before we make any exciting scenarios where we change our management, we first make this prognosis. So now we've got a prognosis back from our model showing that this is your herd in the future. This is how many heifers you will have. This is your age at first calving. This is your milk yield. I cheated a little bit. I put this little demonstration on pause because making this prognosis is sometimes something that takes 2 or 3 minutes. But we confirmed the prognosis. We're satisfied with how the herd will look like in the future. And then we can create a scenario. We can create whatever it is we want. Disease treatments, metabolic diseases. Milk fever was one of the diseases we had a quite high level of. 10.6 is the base risk. Please look at these question marks to get a definition about what does base risk mean. But we're going to reduce this by 50%. We're going to have a 50% lower milk fever. Lower milk fever risk. Click on save and the model is running. We don't wait. We typically create a new scenario, and in this new scenario we could also do something more drastic. We could, for example, increase the number of cows. I want to expand my herd, and in the future I have room for 120 cows. Click on create scenario. herd expansion, 120 cows. Click on save, and the model is running and gives us a scenario in a minute. The first scenario is finished, where we lowered our milk fever risk. We can look at the results. We can expand all these tables one at a time or immediately. And here we see the increase in margin per year, margin per cow year, margin per kilo energy corrected milk. A lot of technical numbers. What we also could do is look at some of the economic calculations. What happens in terms of the revenues. We have more milk sales, we have more heifer sales, but we also have a bit more feeding costs, lower disease treatments, and again here, the gross margin per year. Many tables, many numbers. The interpretation is not explained in this video, simply simulating different scenarios. The herd expansion scenario, let's look at that, where we see an unchanged gross margin per cow, well, -3, but it's a stochastic model. There's a lot of noise variation in the model, but on herd level we have almost 30,000 euros more, simply because we have an increase in cow number, of course. And we can also see how fast does the herd expand. Here in the graph we see it takes about 1.5 to 2 years before the herd reaches the 120 cows. During that time, milk yield is a little bit lower. First parity cows, second parity cows, young stock is changing. So this is one example of herd expansion. We can go back here, create a third scenario. We can duplicate or delete scenarios here. We can go back where we came from. We have our template herd here. Herd number 1, we could create a new herd here, or simply go back into this herd and continue with generating scenarios.